everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome to a Books Beside My Bed video. For those of you who are new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading, and for anyone who's very familiar with the series, welcome back. This is my reading week from the 3rd until the 9th of September. It is a much shorter reading wrap up this week and I'll talk about why in a moment, because I read 3 things, 1 novel and 2 novellas. They were all by the same author, so I'm having myself a Very Evie Mitchell reading week. Those 3 texts equated to 361 pages and my yearly reading total is 398 books. So as I said, I'm going to be talking about Evie Mitchell books this week. Within this week, I did read 5 books for the Love in the Night readathon, which I have a separate vlog for, so I'll put that up on the screen. I also read another book for a separate reading vlog, and that's not counted in here in any of the totals. A little bit of a preface about this Evie Mitchell reading week. So last week, I'm pretty sure I saw on Izzy's channel and somewhere else that there was this book coming out called Not My Type. And it sounded great. It was a contemporary romance. It was meant to be funny. It has an illustrated cover. It's gorgeous. It has a woman with pink hair who's in a wheelchair. It's about rope play and I thought this was going to be great. Then I discovered that Evie Mitchell is Australian and I got super excited, so I've pre-ordered the book and it came out on Tuesday. So I decided I'm going to read it on Tuesday because this week was the first week back for term 4. We're remote learning. I'm exhausted, quite literally exhausted. And I wanted to read something that I was really excited about, so I picked it up. And then I did not put it down until I finished. Now, it's not super long. It's a little over 200 pages. It is super easy to read and I really enjoyed it. So now I found myself another Australian romance author to just basically go through their back catalogue with. Over the rest of the week, I was so tired from just working and getting back into that kind of routine that I couldn't really read anything longer than that. I couldn't really read any longer form books, and Evie Mitchell has a stack of things that you can access either for free or on KU that were all under 100 pages. So I just picked up a couple of those. Okay, so let's talk about Not My Type. So Not My Type is the story of Frankie and Jay. Frankie is in a wheelchair. She runs a podcast called All Access, which is talking about ways that people with disabilities or differences can access everyday things, including sex and different kinds of play within sex. And so her podcast has been really successful and she's been nominated for a series of podcast awards. And while they're planning out content for the future months leading up to this awards ceremony, she decides to pursue a listener letter who has requested information around rope play or shibari or any variation thereof. And so Frankie does what Frankie does best. She wants to investigate it. She doesn't want to just talk about it from a theoretical perspective. She is a psychologist, but she actually wants to have some first-hand experience because she herself has a disability, and so she wants to see, you know, what does this look like for someone who has different needs. So she ends up making contact with someone that she was in high school with called Jay. They were only acquaintances. They might have known each other's names. They were never close. As it turns out, he teaches kink classes at the local kink club, and he does classes around accessibility of different types of kink for all different types of people, young, old, differently abled, you name it. They meet and Frankie asks him to teach her about it. He invites her to one of his sessions and asks if she'd be willing to be the demonstration model for it. And it is a super hot scene. And the whole thing takes place with everyone with their clothes on. So it goes from there and they end up striking up a friendship. There is this instant chemistry between the two of them. However, Jay has previously been burnt in a relationship and so he doesn't do relationships, but he's so attracted to Frankie and they try this thing called friend dating, which really doesn't work. And it goes on from there and we work our way up to the awards and also confronting the relationship that has caused him this trauma. And yes, there is some drama with the 3rd act breakup, but I actually really enjoyed it and the way that we get to meet all of these characters and the side characters who I know we're going to get stories from, particularly Frankie's friends. So it was just a delightful read. It does take place in a small town. It does feature BDSM and rope play. One of my favorite things was that Jay has these giant dinosaur statues in his front yard and he is delighted by them, and I was delighted by them as well. So on top of that, we have an Australian author, we have really amazing disability rep, and the thing that blew me away by this book, because I now always read the front material before I get into a book because I want to see if there's any content warnings and things like that. But Evie Mitchell also included an acknowledgement of country, which is the first time I've seen that in an Australian romance book, and I'm here for it. I would love to see that done more often. And then of course I continued on with more Evie Mitchell books. So I decided to start the Capricorn Cove series because I actually have owned one of the books double-breasted for a very long time, but it's maybe book 7 in the series. And the first 2 books I was either able to get free or on KU. So I went back and read 1 and 2 and I'm just going to read through the series because they're not very long. And I feel like it's something that will just enhance my enjoyment if I read it from the start. So the first one is Thunder Thighs. I'm pretty sure at least the first couple of books in the series feature characters who are curvy or plus sized, and they are fabulous. So this is the romance between Gunnar and Ella. Gunnar is a shipbuilder who is traveling around on one of his ships and it needs to be repaired, and he ends up docking in Capricorn Cove while he waits for the parts in order to fix it. He ends up having dinner at the local bar that is owned by Ella and her best friend, and it's quite a nice bar, and the two have an instant chemistry. And this one is an insta love story, so if you're not into it for that, possibly skip this one, but it's also under 100 pages, so you kind of go into it expecting that there's going to be some insta love. Anyway, they're both enamored. She describes him as looking like a Viking god, and she is bold and curvy and just an absolute delight of a character, and Gunnar is instantly smitten with Ella. So the two embark on a whirlwind romance, and then they have to make a decision about whether or not this is something that they're all in for in terms of a relationship. It was really fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I liked all of the side characters, so I will be continuing the series. And I did straight away the next night by reading Double the D, which is an MMF romance. And this is kind of a childhood friends to lovers novella, and it's set in the same small town of Capricorn Cove. You have Dane and Drake, who have been best friends since they were kids. They went into foster care together, and they were fostered in the home where Blue lived. And so she grew up with them for a few years. We find out that in their sort of late teens, Dane and Drake started up a relationship, and they had an interest in Blue as well. But Blue was underage, so the boys weren't willing to embark on anything then. As they aged out, they decided to join the Marines, and now they've returned to Capricorn Cove, and Blue hasn't seen them for years, and she doesn't even realize that they're back in town yet. They're in town to set up sort of a wilderness retreat type business, and they are intent on pursuing Blue in this book. So they have to get over her reluctance, and whether, you want realism or not, the nice thing is that no one makes a big deal about the fact that you have this throuple in town, because everyone has known since they were teenagers that Dane and Drake were interested in Blue. And it was just really fun and delightful to read. So yes, that is my wrap up for this week, short and sweet, and the complete opposite of last week. But there will be some more books coming in various reading vlogs over the couple of weeks, so definitely check those out. In the comments, let me know what you have been reading over the last 7 days. I would love to hear about what you have picked up. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave an Australian flag, since Evie Mitchell is Australian, and that's pretty much all I talked about in this video. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.